Hello and welcome to another episode of the Leo Alves podcast. And in today's podcast episode, I have a great guest with me. Her name is Kim Schlag. I won't say too much. I'll let her introduce herself. But otherwise, yeah, let's just get straight into the introduction, and then we can go from there in regard to today's topic.
Okay, well, first, thanks so much for having me on, Leo. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm always happy to talk about all things, fitness and nutrition. So, my name's Kim. I'm a formerly obese Gen X woman. I got into the best shape of my life in my 40s and kept it up here in my 50s, thriving in my 50s, and I coach other women to do the same.
Okay, so is that what got you initially into coaching? Was just how you made your own progress?
Yeah, nobody would have said that they would have guessed I would turn out to be a personal trainer when I was younger. I was not athletic. This was not in my wheelhouse. When I was much younger, like a teenager, I was always like, I should lose 5 pounds. And looking back, what I really wanted, but I didn't know it, I wanted to have muscle on my body. That was what I was going for, but I was in no way overweight. And so, I tried all the fad things in my 20s and never really got anywhere. But when I turned 30, I started having kids, and I've had 3 kids, and I gained 50 pounds with every one of my kids and never really lost the weight from the previous pregnancy before the next pregnancy. And there I was in my mid 30s and struggling with obesity and had zero idea of how to get it off because nothing I'd ever really tried had helped me even get off a little bit of weight, let alone a lot of weight. And so, I really was trying to dig in and try lots of things. And I would like have some success and then gain it back. And it wasn't until I was turning 40. And then really the big change I made when I was 43 was I started lifting weights. Like somebody taught me in the gym. We happened to be housing this kid who was staying with us, and I needed to keep this 19-year-old busy. And I'm like, "What do you like?" And he's like, "I like to go to the gym." And one day he said to me, like a few days into, I was his ride to the gym, and one day he said to me, he's like, "What is it you're trying to do?" And I was like, "Well, I'm trying not to be fat." And he's like, "Why don't you come up with me?" Because he saw me like on my cardio equipment and like doing a little bit of this and that with the weights. And he taught me how to lift. And because he lived in my house, he's like, "I see how you eat." He's like, "You try to eat nothing all day." And he's like, "And I see you standing in the pantry in the evening." And I'm like, "But I feel like I don't eat that much." He's like, "I think you probably do, though." And he was totally right. I tried to eat as little as possible and try and burn as many calories as possible with cardio. And in reality, I was eating far too much, not realizing it. And I hadn't been strength training. And when I started doing those things, I started dropping weight and my body totally shifted. And I happened to do it in a pretty public way, like locally, in that like I was going to this gym 5 days a week. And a few months in, so these women started coming up to me and being like, "What did you do? How did you do that?" And so I started helping people. And after enough people were like, "Hey, like maybe you should do this as a job." I didn't have one of those because I was a stay-at-home mom. I was like, maybe I should. And I started studying how to be a personal trainer and eventually got certified in personal training, got certified in nutrition, and 10 years in, here I am.
Yeah, that's a that first of all, props to you, and secondly, that is a very common thing I often come across. A lot of people, um, they speak about wanting to lose body fat, whereas sometimes I feel like they're in a place that's like, hold on, I don't think you actually need to really focus on losing body fat. I think it's more gaining muscle here right now, which would be really good for you, and that sounds like it was the position that you were in. So, obviously, I did bring you on today to speak about menopause, and we'll definitely dive into all of that shortly. But would you say when it was with your own journey, was there like a lot of like just moments when you were like, oh, okay, like just like a lot of moments where you're like maybe you were having realizations as to maybe what you should be prioritizing over others, or was there like one really big aha moment, like, oh my gosh, like this is what I need to be doing?
It was definitely a progression of knowledge and understanding. Um, I always felt when I was younger, like in my 20s and in my 30s, I always felt like there was like I had there was some missing secret. That was my big problem. I thought there was some missing secret. And in the end, when I finally realized, I was like, no, really, I was eating too much food and I wasn't exercising appropriately. And when that clicked, I was like, wow, I was really overcomplicating this. I really thought it was going to be like I don't know, Garcinia cambogia or something. I thought that there was something I could take or try that would give me the results that I was wanting. So for me, like the really big light bulb moment that was led up to by many little steps was realizing like, hey, it really is about calories. And strength training is very different than cardio and very different than how I had done strength training because I had done things with weights in my hands, but it still wasn't like really lifting with progression. And when I realized that those were the two missing pieces, that's when things really started to shift for me.
See, okay, so yeah, very cool, and I guess all of that has brought you here now. So, in regards to what I mentioned, like, well, we were today's episode was going to be all about menopause. I know you love speaking about that as well.
Yeah.
It's something you often make content about, and I've listened to podcast episodes with you on in the past in which you discuss menopause. I remember listening to one with Jeff Packman quite a while back.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a year or two ago now. But yeah, I thought let's be cool about it today because it is a common, it's something many people go through, and I feel like it's not something I've really discussed on the podcast before. So who better than to have you on, and we can go all in on it. And so maybe we can just start off with like what is menopause, and then we can just kind of go from there.
Yeah, it's an important topic to speak about, especially in today's environment, because it used to be. So I started. First of all, what is menopause? Menopause is when our periods, our menstrual cycles stop. It when we think about like the definition of it is when we have been without a period for 1 full year. That's how you know you are in menopause, 1 full year without a period. But the entire period leading up to that is called perimenopause. Peri means around. And for many women, the time where they are most symptomatic is in that perimenopause period. So those years before they have fully stopped having their periods. And that can last up to a decade. And it has for me. I am still forgetting perimenopause, and I started a decade ago. Some women are highly symptomatic, some are not, and some people are in between. It is a big buzzword these days. Everybody's talking about menopause and perimenopause. When I started going through it, I had literally never heard the word perimenopause. And I have to tell you, I thought I was imminently going to be diagnosed with a disease. I knew something was wrong and I had no idea what it was. And I had the weirdest symptoms. And I was like, what is it going to be MS? Like, what are they going to tell me is wrong with me? Because it was just not being spoken about. Today, in this day and age, it is wonderful how much education there is around menopause. It is a double-edged sword because so many people are talking about it. There's a lot of grifters out there as well, putting forth a lot of bad information and trying to sell a whole lot of products that people don't need. So it's really important for people to understand, from a fitness and nutrition perspective, how does menopause impact that? What do I need to do? And those kind of things. And I am really passionate about talking about it because I've been through perimenopause. I'm still in perimenopause, and these are the women I serve. I didn't set out to be a perimenopause coach. It just happened that as I was online talking about my own experience, like, here's what's happening with me starting menopause hormone therapy, and here's my, why I'm not sleeping. And as I would talk about that, those are the clients who would come to me. And eventually I realized almost all my clients are women in perimenopause and menopause. And then from there, I just kind of shifted into that lane.
Okay, so when it comes to being in perimenopause and menopause, is there like a different and I'm assuming like are there different challenges in regard to, let's say, when it comes to fitness and weight management, or is it quite similar between the two?
So there are additional challenges. You don't need a fully different approach, but you need to be aware of what's happening to your body and how that might be impacting your ability to do the things that anybody has to do to lose weight. So you don't lose weight differently in menopause, but you're going to have additional hurdles, and understanding those hurdles and then being able to work around them is really important. It is still going to be a calorie deficit that's going to help you lose weight. You're still going to need to eat protein. You're still going to need to walk and move your body. Like, all of this is still necessary. And at the same time, you might find that you're not sleeping well. Or sometimes I went through a period of 3 months where I was hardly sleeping at all. So your sleep is impacted, which then can increase your hunger and increase your cravings. Okay, well, that makes losing weight really, really difficult, right? You can have increased joint pain. Do people typically want to work out with heavy weights if there or any kind of weights if they're struggling with joint pain? It's an additional hurdle. Your energy level can just absolutely tank. That can impact you both in your desire to go to the gym, how hard you push in the gym, as well as you might not even realize that you have down regulated how much you're moving across your day because you're so tired. And it might not even feel apparent to you. So now you're moving less, you're having increased cravings, you don't want to go to the gym as much, or it's hard to push in the gym. not to mention just a whole host of other symptoms that can make you just not feel well. For me, like my joint pain in my hands was intense. Like I could not get my hands to work well for a while. That was really challenging to think about wanting to do anything else when all day long I was struggling with pain in my hands. Brain fog is a big one for most women, and there's not a whole lot yet that science has discovered we can do for that. And so when you find yourself constantly feeling forgetful, a lot of us, we feel like, is this like the start of dementia? Like, what's happening in my head? That's a big issue. And so there's just a lot of increased hurdles that we come to or can. Not everybody has all of these or even any of these. Um, that as we look at how do we gain muscle, how do we lose fat, how do we become fitter, that we need to look at what are my personal hurdles and how do I overcome those.
Yeah, and I love that you clarified that when it comes to like weight management, for example, at the end of the day, it's still going to be a calorie deficit. It's still going to be, getting your protein in, lifting weights, progressively overloading, because I do see it online, and I'm sure you see it a lot as well, is that when, when menopause starts, I see a lot of ladies sometimes, saying, calorie tracking, for example, that's great that, it works for you, but I'm in menopause right now, so a calorie deficit just doesn't work for me anymore, and I've tried. And that's like, it would just be like messages along those lines. So, um, why do you think maybe a lot? Because I've seen that message a few times now. Why do you think what could be going on there at play? Maybe the listener is maybe a little bit confused themselves.
Yeah, so I think there's two pieces, like what's going on in like the woman's brain, as in the client, and what is going on with the person teaching these things, right? And I think they're different. Let me start with like the everyday person who wants to have help losing weight in menopause, in perimenopause, like what might be going on with them. The reality is losing weight can be really challenging, and it can really feel like I am trying as hard as I can and it's not working. And in my brain now, I've heard that as I get older and as I'm going through menopause, it's going to be hard. And so it makes sense in my brain that what is wrong is my body. Like there's something wrong with me, and if somebody can tell me what it is and I do it differently, I can fix it because it's not working for me. In reality, when I start working with these women, we always find, I have not had a client with me yet that we have found like, oh, they were eating more than they thought. Maybe it's the cravings at night. Maybe it's emotional eating. Their schedule is really busy because the other thing that's happening at the same time as women are going through menopause, they're also at a point in their lives where, aging is happening and life circumstances are such that they've got teenagers now and they're caring for their aging parents and their careers have really advanced. And so there's a lot of time pressure in their life. And so whereas when they were younger, maybe they had more freedom to take care of themselves, they often find themselves putting themselves way down on the list. And so they're not eating, even when they're trying to lose weight, all the pieces aren't coming together. And when we can shine a light on that and they can see, like, wait a minute, if I'm moving less than I thought and eating more than I thought, this makes sense. It can feel like such a sense of relief of like, this actually does work for me. So that's what I think is going on from the trainee's perspective. From like the expert, and I'm putting that in quotation mark perspective, I think some people are led astray because there are a lot of people out there who just don't understand the science and they say nonsense. And then other coaches believe them, and it can feel true because it can feel like, well, the problem is we need to balance our hormones. And that is a phrase I friggin' hate because guys, we're not balancing these hormones. It's not going to happen. You are going to lose estrogen. It's gonna happen, right? And you can do menopause hormone therapy. I do. It has helped me with my symptoms. It is not going to impact whether or not I lose weight unless it's helping me with symptoms that were getting in my way of being successful. So you have these, like, even doctors. There are doctors out there who then are, there's many who have cult followings online and they're saying things like calories don't matter. What matters is how much fiber you're getting, or these things that also impact it. Great. Fiber is really useful for creating a calorie deficit, but without the calorie deficit, you're still not going to lose weight. And so we have a lot of coaches out there who are spouting like what they feel kind of makes sense. Like, oh, it's about hormone balancing workouts and hormone balancing diets, when in reality, it's impossible to balance our hormones, and it's a goal that we cannot and do not need to be shooting for.
Yeah, I think I made a post on this the other day. I feel like a lot more often than not, like way more often than not, when you see someone speaking about balancing your hormones, chances are they have no idea what they're speaking about, because that just
It's
seems to,
true.
yeah, that just
It's
seems to
a
be
big
like,
red flag.
yeah, it's a big red flag. Because I'm just like, when you really peel it down, like, and you ask them what do you mean by that? Like, they
Hmm.
more often than not, they can't explain themselves. Yeah, it just sounds, I think, fancy to maybe someone who doesn't really have an idea of what they're speaking about, and they've been struggling for a long time. And what you were saying as well is like a lot of uneducated coaches who, maybe some mean well and they're just confused, like, and then maybe you have others who genuinely know that not what they're saying is not true, but it makes them money. Um, like an example comes to mind, like I guess maybe someone who means well, but like they're like, oh, it's not calories, it's the fact that you need to cut out all sugar, I don't know, all bread, all pasta and rice, and then has actually ended up happening is that person's just put themselves in a calorie deficit, but because it only worked when they followed those rigid guidelines. Now they're a believer as well that it was the no sugar, no bread, no carbs, like just none of that. In fact, and it's like it's not about calories, it's about that. And then that's sometimes how cult followings are built. But I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here. Um,
No, I
so
think it's a super important point because, yeah, like you could work with somebody and you could be like, I did cut out the sugar and the bread and the pasta, and then I lost weight. And then in your brain, you think I can't eat sugar and bread and pasta. Well, then as you go through life, if you're like, but I want to, in your mind, you've now made the association, well, if I do, I will just gain weight. And that's not true. And so understanding like fundamentally why you're losing weight is a super important piece of the puzzle. And it's one of the things that I work with clients on. I don't want to just help people if their goal is to lose weight. I don't want them to lose weight in some mysterious way because that was one of my big problems. When I had been some success with weight in my weight loss in my 30s, I never quite understood why. And it was always that I'd put myself in a deficit, but I didn't understand it, which meant I couldn't repeat it or figure out what might impact it. And so I think it's really important for people to understand like any protocol you follow that helps you to lose weight worked because it put you in a deficit. And you can do really restrictive ones that feel like I will never be able to maintain this, or you can figure out and learn how to do it in a way that actually makes sense with your lifestyle. And if you like to eat bread and pasta, how can we help you do that while maintaining a calorie deficit to lose weight and then maintaining calorie maintenance to maintain it for the long term?
yeah. So, yeah, fabulously said. So, let's say the listener right now, they're going through maybe perimenopause or menopause themselves, and they've been listening to all of this, and they're like, yeah, this is fantastic. But you know what? And I guess we've kind of touched upon this already, but maybe make it like a bit more clear cut. It's like, okay, this is all fantastic. I'm loving this so far, but what is it exactly do I need to do? Like, what evidence-based strategies do I need to do to lose weight and build strength while I'm going through this challenging time? Like, what should I do when it comes to my food, and what should I do? And we'll say like just general guidelines because, of course, it can be quite individualistic. But generally, what's a good idea to focus on with food, with training, and yeah, we did kind of touch on it, but like let's maybe just really make it clear cut here.
So when it comes to nutrition, the biggest impact is going the thing that you most need to pay attention to is how much are you eating in terms of calories. And that could be a high volume of food or it could be a little volume of food because some foods are very calorie dense and you just don't feel really full. And so the first thing I would suggest people do is get a good idea of how many calories are you eating in a day. To do this, you could start by literally just getting a piece of paper and writing down everything you eat or drink. That alone might make you feel really surprised to be like, I had no idea how often I snack, right? So getting an idea, an even more precise way to figure out how you're eating is to spend like 2 weeks, get an app like MyFitnessPal or Lose It, and start tracking that way. Do it for like 1 to 2 weeks so you can get a really good idea of how much am I eating. That would be like part one of your kind of information gathering. The other part is to get a step tracker. Doesn't have to be an Apple Watch. You could buy like a $13 one on Amazon or at Walmart. Pop it on your wrist. Pay attention. Again, both of these, I would suggest you try to do these without changing anything, which is almost impossible because I mean what research shows us is that even just attending to these factors helps us improve them. So you're not going to totally do what you usually do, but you're going to try as much as possible to move as you usually do and eat as you usually do. And then also, you're tracking how much you're eating for a week or two. You're tracking how much you're moving for a week or two. You're likely going to be really surprised about both of these things. From there, you can work to reduce how many calories you're eating and increase how much you're moving. Those are like the big first rocks. In addition to that, we want to look at how much protein you're eating. So look at that log you just kept to see like how much protein am I eating? And then let's have you increase it. A baseline that I give everybody, it's not necessarily where everybody needs to end, but where I like to get everybody to start is 100 grams of protein. Which for a lot of people is a lot. I will say more often than not, women come to me eating 50 to 60 grams of protein, sometimes less, in a day. And baseline, I want to get them to 100. And then from there, we're going to move people up. Some people need 120, 130, 140 grams of protein in a day, but we want to get everybody to 100 to start with. This is key, ladies. If you're like, why do I even need to do it? Number one, it's going to help you when you're losing weight to not feel so dang hungry, because that's like the death knell to most people's diets, right? Like, I'm just really hungry. It's the best tool you have for feeling less hungry. And then, secondly, and equally as important, it is the building block of muscle. You cannot build muscle without enough protein. And so, if you're thinking, like, one, I want to look really good, like, I want to have some toned looking arms, some nice looking legs, you need muscle. And the nutritional piece from that is going to be the protein. Also, muscle is really important for our health. We are losing muscle as we age, and that speeds up in menopause. Like, we lose more muscle if we're not doing something to prevent it. And ladies, there are things we can do. The nutritional component of that is eating enough protein. And if that feels overwhelming, think about that 100 grams and then just make a list of like 10 protein foods you like. You could literally Google high protein foods. Ignore any list that says peanut butter is a high protein food, ladies, because there's too many calories in peanut butter. The calorie to protein ratio is off. Think about things that, are animal protein based, or if you do plant-based protein, we can do tofu, tempeh, seitan, those kind of things. It's where you're going to get the most like dairy products, like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, these kind of things. Like, make a little short list, like, here's what I like, and have some at each of your meals. Like, that's a really great place to start and work for that 100 grams. So, nutritionally, that's where I'd say, from a movement perspective, there's not a goal, ladies, that you have to get to 10K. Like, that's made up. It's not science based, but I will say, getting yourself from wherever you are now, increasing it if you're really low, if you're getting 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 steps, get yourself up to 7,500. That's a really great goal that most people can get to. For fat loss, I will say most of my clients, especially if you are a person and you're like, I want to lose the last 10 or 15 pounds, getting up to that 10,000 step mark is incredibly impactful for fat loss. Don't have to get there, but I do find it's useful. If you are a petite woman looking to lose weight, it's really important. Like, if you're like, I'm a shorty, 5'3". I have a lot of ladies come to me. I don't know why I get all the short ladies too. 5 feet, 5'1", 5'2", 5'3". Trying to lose weight, especially if we're down to that last 10 or 15 pounds, without getting your steps up to like that 10, 12,000 per day, it's going to keep your calories really stupid low.
Yeah, and there's a lot that you said there that I would like to just go over. So, first of
Yeah.
all, and I'm sure you've heard this as well because I certainly have. What would you say to the person, maybe the listener right now, who goes, "Wow, that much protein? Like, I don't know if I want to eat that much protein because I don't want to get too like big and muscly." Is something I hear a lot.
Yeah, it's just not how it works. And I know, like, you might be like, well, I don't believe you. It's you're test and see what happens. Like, you can't grow that much muscle that fast. So give it a couple weeks. If you start growing insane muscles, you can always cut it back, ladies. I promise you, it's just not how it works. You will find that you feel, like I said, less hungry in your diet, and just know that this is not something that fitness professionals, nutritionists argue about. Like, we all know if you want to build muscle, you have to have enough protein. This is not something that's like, oh yeah, there's a hot debate about that. So just know that, like, people agree about this. Like, we need protein to build muscle.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people out there who they're like grinding their butt off to like get as much muscle as possible. Like, and I'm talking like sometimes like the smallest differences of muscle, and they're doing everything they can. Like, they're being incredibly consistent, pushing themselves like wild in their workouts, like just yeah, pushing themselves like crazy, optimizing every bit of their routine that they can for every single bit of muscle, and like. And they're still having a like it's still tough and it's challenging. So, if it was as easy as eating 100 grams of protein a day is going to like make you big and ripped and strong, like yeah, these
Look,
people
ladies,
wouldn't be
don't look
putting
a
in that much
picture of me up
work.
online. I'm not big and ripped yet. Like, I have goals to be even more big and more ripped, but not big. But I want to get a lot more muscle. I've been trying for 10 years. I built a lot of muscle. I still, like, I don't look like a bodybuilder. I promise you. 100 grams protein, 120 grams, you're not going to be ripped. I
Yeah,
mean,
and that
you're not going to be bulky. You're not going to be like, wow, look at all this muscle on me.
yeah, no, it's absolutely right. Yeah, and there's not, there's a lot of things that are debated in the fitness, the health, the nutrition space. Most of it is just rubbish, and but yeah, the protein isn't. It's not really one of those things where you're seeing a lot of people debate. Like, a lot of people know, like, yeah, we need protein and we need a good
Mhm.
amount to be eating or to be like making the progress that we want to be making. And I can vouch as well. Like I've seen similar when I have ladies start with me more often than not. They're eating quite low protein, and I would say I've seen as low as like sometimes like 15 to 20 grams. But this was someone who was a
Wow.
vegan. Uh,
Okay. Yeah, that
yeah,
makes
so
more
it makes
sense.
more
Yeah.
sense. So, but yeah, I would say the average is like 50 grams, maybe 60
Hmm.
grams. But so yeah, it's really worth making a conscious effort towards getting in, as you said, and I sometimes find just increasing that protein goal makes a lot of other things easier.
Yeah, absolutely. The interesting thing is when I'm working with a woman who is newer to all of this and we get her to her protein goal that I've given her, she's inevitably making better progress than my clients who are struggling to get to their protein goal. And one of the main things I attribute this to is the fact that they're still eating the same number of calories. They're coming from somewhere. You want to know what one food is people don't typically overeat? It's protein. So if you're eating, have you ever sat at the table and thought like, yeah, give me another chicken breast? Usually not, right? We're like, give me more potatoes, give me more noodles, give me more, treats, right? And so protein, if you're counting your calories and you're like, I'm hitting my protein goal, it is much harder to overeat it. We just simply don't want to eat it. And so when we take that kind of like excess we're putting towards carbs and fats and put it towards, weighing it towards that protein, it really does help to control total calories.
Okay, so let's say, all right, so now we've established like quite good, really good nutrition guidelines and points to bear in mind. Let's say the listener, yeah, we mentioned walking, strength training. Maybe they're thinking right now, and I'm playing a lot of like I don't think devil's advocate here is the right word, but just a lot of maybe like a thought process that I can imagine maybe someone is thinking right now. Like say like they're thinking, okay, but okay, I know I need to strength train, but are there like specific exercises I must do like for that are effective for me right now with what I'm going through?
Yeah. So here's my best. I'm going to give you my best baseline advice, ladies, and then I'm going to tell you more. I promise I'm going to say more than this. But I want you to think about this, like picking your workout, finding a workout, doing a workout, like you would something, fixing your own car. If your car wasn't working well, would you be like, let me figure that out? I'm going to read some books. I'm going to get a magazine. I'm going to go and practice it. You wouldn't, right? You would hire an expert. I'm telling you, if you would like good results with workouts, you need to hire an expert in some way, whether that means buying a training program, getting a coach. This is not something you want to like rig up yourself because you're likely just not going to get the same results. Again, are you going to get the same results with it? Could you figure out how to fix your carburetor? I don't even really know what a carburetor is, ladies, but you could. Do you typically do that with all the other pieces of your life? You just don't. And this is one of those pieces. And I think it's because we figure like, I'm a human. I have a body. Like, I should know what to do with it. I'm telling you, you're going to get better results if you get somebody else's training program and you follow it exactly as they write it. Okay. With that said, if you're like, just tell me, give me some basics for myself, you want to use the main movement pattern. So we're talking some kind of a squat pattern, some kind of a hinge pattern, an overhead press, a vertical press, a horizontal press, and we want to get some core work in there. And we want to get some single limb work in there, like lunges, step ups. So if you hit those kind of movements, and there's a lot of variety in those movements, but we want to do all of those movements across our week. And the key thing we want to think about as we're doing these movements is one, learning good form, figuring out like what does a squat actually look like? What does a good squat look like? What does a healthy squat look like? Figuring that out, practicing with it with each exercise, and then pushing the intensity of those exercises to stimulate muscle growth. And when I say intensity, often people immediately in their mind conjure up like sweating, my heart is racing, like it feels like I'm wiping the floor with myself. And that's not what I'm talking about here. When I say intensity, I mean lifting heavy enough so that it is close enough to failure. And what that weight is going to be in your hand is going to depend on one, your strength level, two, the exercise you're doing, and three, the rep range you're working in. So when I'm saying lifting with intensity and lifting heavy, I'm not talking about a specific number of pounds you should be using, but a feeling in terms of effort. And so once you've got the form down really well on an exercise, whatever rep range you're working on, when you get to the end of that set, a set is a grouping of reps. If you're squatting, every time you go down and up, that's a rep. A group of those is a set. When you get to the end of that set, every set, it should feel really hard. It should feel like you could do it definitely one more time with good form, possibly two. Anything higher than that, you should get a heavier weight. And so that's the goal. Learn the exercises and then use intensity This is what's going to stimulate your muscles to grow. Without that, is it worth it? Yes, because any movement is good movement. Like there is nothing you could do. If you're like, I like Pilates, I like Zumba, great. You should move your body in that way. If you find it fun, it's not the same thing as training with intensity. It's not going to give you the exact same results. It's good. It's still good for your body. But if you're looking to protect your health long term, to make sure you age well, to look like you're fit, you're going to need to strength train with that intensity level.
Yeah, I love everything you've said there. I love the accountability part at first as well. It's funny because I made a post on that just today. The post was inspired from an episode that I had with Mike Dola a while, last year. He came on in like October. To the listener, if you haven't heard that one yet, I would definitely recommend checking that out. And and he said, and it was like what my post kind of echoed today, which was again inspired from that episode, was like if you have 1,000 people and you have two groups, maybe 500 with a coach and accountability, and 500 people doing it by themselves, I would bet my life savings that the 500 people with the coach, with the accountability, would see much better results. And a lot of people just like when they start a fitness journey, they just think, yeah, I know what to do. I'm just going to do it. But the research, it doesn't actually show that. The research shows that we act differently when we're being watched. Just having that accountability absolutely makes a difference. And just having someone in your corner you're like when you're alone, because doing it alone is much harder, can really just be a game-changing factor as well. Honestly, it makes all the difference. So I think sometimes like skipping coaching to save a little bit of money is just when you think about how long you're going to end up making yourself take, like it could literally be an extra 5, 6, 7 years in some cases without that accountability, and what you could maybe do in a year or two, and depending on your starting point, like it's just night and day. And yeah, I'll
Yeah.
leave it there because I got,
No, I'm with you. I'm a huge proponent of coaching. I mean, I am a coach, and I invest in coaches. I have had coaches for all kinds of things. I had a powerlifting coach. Right now, I have a coach that I'm working with on becoming a better coach. Like we're talking about the change process, and she's my mentor, and we talk about like the change process in clients. I've had business coaches to help me grow my business, and it never surprises me anymore just how much better I get faster than I ever could have on my own. I had one experience, that can translate really well to fitness. It was my business coach, and he was helping me become a new coach and helping me like, how do I actually get clients? Like I know what I'm doing. And he had given me a couple of questions to ask to see if a person would be a good fit and for them to realize they're a good fit for you. And I was having such great results with this. So we were on the phone. You might this is Jordan. Jordan's
oh,
Hyatt. He
okay,
was
yeah, I had a feeling.
yeah, Jordan was my coach. So we're talking one day, and I was like, Jordan, I'm like, those questions are amazing. Like, I am signing on so many more people, and they're a really good fit. And he couldn't stop laughing. He's like, Kim, it took me years of trial and error to come up with those questions. Years. He's like, I told them to you in minutes. Like, I'm just like writing them down in my notebook. He told me them in minutes. And it took him years to come to those questions. And this is what coaching can do for you in the health and fitness realm, in any realm, really. But like, it's like the shortcut that nobody's looking for. Like, everybody's like, I want a shortcut. It's like the hack that nobody's like, that's the hack I want. This is the hack. Like getting a coach who knows what they're doing to be by your side, to help you troubleshoot, to give you information that it took them a long time to get, and to help you like see the things that you can't see. And that's one of the amazing benefits of coaches. There's another coach who put it one time. She said that it's like when you have lettuce in your teeth and you don't know, all it takes is for somebody else to point out that lettuce in your teeth and you can easily remove it. And that's what a coach does for you. They can help you see where the lettuce is so you can get it out. It's really the fast track to results.
Yeah, mic drop, Kim. Yeah, it's really well said. Okay, so yeah, and obviously I'm a big proponent of coaching as well because I'm a coach too. So, yeah, I think we've covered so many really good things. I would love to ask, because I feel like this is often overlooked as well as accountability. Like a lot of people are like, what should I do for food? What should I do for training? Yeah, what like supplements should I be taking? But like, how important would you say mindset is in all of this, like the menopause and the perimenopausal phase as well?
I mean, for any phase, mindset is underpinning anybody's success. There's just, we get in our own way when we're stumbling with what's going on between our ears. And I will tell you, I spend most of my time coaching, helping people with what's going on between their ears. It's not necessarily like I'm not like given a meal plan, and it's not nearly as important when we talk about the foods they're eating. It's what's happening inside their brain. How are they interpreting their results? So when we can get around like what is going on in your brain, it's always helpful. For women who are in perimenopause, it's even more important because we just have so many things we're struggling with, and we can feel so much like it's not possible for me, right? It's my age. And so when we can get past that piece of it's somehow outside of myself to understanding like actually the control is inside of me and I understand I have these hurdles and I can figure out or get help to figure out how to go over these hurdles to be successful, it is hugely impactful. There's definitely this factor of you got to buy into the fact that you can do it before you're going to be successful. And so if you come into trying to build muscle, lose fat with the idea of it's not possible with my hormones, it's not possible with my age, you're right. You're never going to be able to do it. And
Yeah.
it's just not true. But if you believe that, it's going to be true for you.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And yeah, and there's so many examples of the way like just a mindset working against someone that we could take it down. And I don't know if this is the best way, but best example, but it is one. Like I remember recently I had a one-to-one online fitness client, and on the check-in he mentioned that he was just asking me like, is this rate of fat loss progress okay? Like I feel like it's quite slow, but maybe like slow and steady is what I should be working towards. And that question in itself is fine, but it, the part was he was losing about 0.5 kg a week, which is about 1.1 pounds a week on average for like the last 2 or 3 weeks. I can't remember now. This chat was a little while ago, just the other day. But yeah, I just was like, that's not slow. And so it's
That's
like things
actually
like
fast.
yeah, yeah, that's fast. And I was like, maybe you've had phases where it was slow, but right now you're not going through a phase in which it's slow. And you could see like within the Lions, like there was like this initial, maybe I don't know if pessimism is the right word, but he was, maybe it could have been quite easy for him to get inside his own head if he didn't have someone there. Like it sounded like he was just having this debate in his head, whereas really I was like, oh, hold on a minute, like no, you're like, this is fast. This is fast. Like any faster, I probably would want it to slow down a bit. So yeah, I was just like, and I think that mindset switch and just hearing that could definitely help in certain situations as well. So again, that's just one example, and I know there's many others as well.
Yeah, getting proper expectations is so key to success because he could have felt really disappointed, which could have led to him feeling like, ah, screw it, what's the point? When in reality, his weight loss was moving along, not even at a good pace, but at a fast pace. And so getting your brain wrapped around like what are proper expectations is so key.
Yeah. I'd love to ask as well. So I've got about two more questions that I had left for you. So, and I'm sure there are so many things that you could say to this question, but maybe we'll just pick one or two. Like, what would you say are some common misconceptions about fitness and menopause that you'd like to address,
Um,
if any?
I feel like I've already harped really hard on the fact that it's possible to lose weight. That either I would guess I would say that one, either you need menopause hormone therapy to be successful, or two, that it's causing you to gain fat. I hear both of those things. People will say to me, like, oh, like I don't want to go on hormone therapy. I'm worried that it's going to help me, it's going to make me gain fat. That's not a thing, ladies. There is no evidence to support that. There's also no evidence to support that it helps you lose weight, except in as much as it relieves your symptoms. And so menopause hormone therapy should be something you choose to do in discussion with your doctor if you are having what it is the gold standard treatment for is night sweats and hot flashes. So if you're having night sweats and hot flashes, that's an appropriate thing to discuss with your doctor. But just know that the only way that it's going to impact your weight loss is if you're struggling with sleeping at night, right? From those hot flashes, you get them under control with the menopause hormone therapy, and now you're not struggling with sleeping, which means like, hey, like I can actually get to the gym and I feel like I have the brain power to prep my food and I'm not having cravings. So I think that's a really big one that people feel like that menopause hormone therapy, they have to go one way or another because of them wanting to lose weight.
Okay. And I'd love to ask as well, is there anything within this entire podcast episode that we didn't cover, that you'd like to discuss?
Let me think. That's a big question.
I know. It's a very like,
I
yeah.
feel like we've talked about strength training, ladies. It really is. If you're like, What's the secret to youth? I'm telling you, it's strength training. I just had a client yesterday message me. She's had really great results over the past couple of months. And I don't remember what the question was I had asked her, but she messaged me back and she's like, here's how I know I'm getting stronger. I'm thinking, did I? I don't know. Why did I ask you that? But she's like, in everyday life, I can do things I couldn't do. I have more energy and I just don't feel weak anymore. She's like, she's almost 60. She's like, I don't feel weak anymore. And I mean, we've only been working together 2 months. I mean, this is what strength training can do for you. Yes, it can help you look really good, but it can help you feel and be a person who can do all the things you want to do for so much longer than you might even think. And I'm talking like little things like put your own dishes up in the cupboard, climb up on a ladder and not feel like you're gonna like fall and break your hip, put your own luggage in the overhead compartment, bend down on the ground so that you can like pick something up or play with your grandkids or dig in the flower bed and stand up with your own power. It is so important for all of those things.
Yeah, I think you broke it down tremendously there. When you get stronger, life just simply gets easier.
It
And
does.
yeah, and it's literally like a fountain of youth. So yeah, if you're not strength training right now to the listener, then I would definitely recommend you get started. And there's a free workout plan. There's a free workout plan in the link of the show notes of this podcast, via a link in the show notes of this podcast episode, which you can always grab as well. And on that note, I will. I guess where can people find you? Because I'm sure that people can find like workouts through your stuff as well.
Yeah. So my website is Kim Schlag Fitness. Let me spell my last name. It's S as in Sam, Chlag. Lots of stuff on my website. You can find out. I launch every spring and fall. I do an 8-week challenge for women over 40. We work on losing weight, getting strong, all those things. So that's coming up soon. Waitlist is open for that. I'm on Instagram, Kim Schlag Fitness. I have my own podcast, Fitness Simplified. So all those places. But if you just Google Kim Schlag Fitness, you will find me all the places.
Yeah, I will. I'll hyperlink all those things in the show
Okay,
notes of
great.
this podcast episode as well, so the listener can just find them. But otherwise, Kim, thank you so much for taking the time out, coming on to the podcast episode, speaking about everything: menopause, nutrition, fitness, health, strength training. Yeah, mindset. It was a really fun chat. The 45 minutes just like flew by, so it was really fun. And again, yeah, thank you so much for taking your time out.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, take care. I'll see you.
Thanks.